I used to think it was because like a waiter, like you're wading through a river and you have to hold your clothes over your head, but it's actually like a waiter like holding a tray above their shoulder. And I used to be a waiter, so it's funny. Hello and welcome back to the Fox Strength Performance YouTube channel. I am Taylor Fox, and today we're talking about accessories for pressing. So I did a part one video where we went over overhead pressing tips, and then we involved some different implements, barbell, axle, we did a neutral grip bar to represent a log. So now we're going to get into some assistance movements that are dialed in and focused on these different points. So the first one is going to be a focus on tricep movements, and I really like to look at triceps as like the specific angle and recruitment pattern of the overhead press movement. So you'll see me doing a lot of different incline movements, overhead or behind the head extensions. I feel like that has a lot of good carryover to that top end of the press where you really want those triceps to kick in and be really strong so that you can lock out those lifts and hit big PRs and have successful events in competition. I also really like the JM press with the SSB. I think it's really good on like recruiting the triceps, and even though it's a flat bench variation, it's a lot of good aspects that I feel like are really good for carry over to the overhead press. So I'm just doing some extra sets to finish up training today. So I'm going to hit a set here. I'm using 80 pounds of chains here, pretty heavy for an accessory movement, but I feel like the accommodating resistance is very important because, especially when you get in that push press or a jerk, get that big push from the legs, you get it above your head, and it's always that last little bit. So you get that drive from the legs, you're really strong off your chest, you're getting above your head, but you need that last little bit to lock out. So I like that the resistance increases throughout the movement. More chains come off the floor. It's heavier at the top as I'm trying to extend. And, the way you do this is you come down, hit your chest, and then come back. So it's right off the forehead. So you can kind of like make an analogy to overhead pressing, like getting that bar to your forehead, getting those triceps to kick in, and extending and pressing through the movement. I've been doing this a little bit with the transformer bar. The full handle does not detach, so it's interesting. You kind of have to hit your bottom ribs and then come all the way back to your forehead. So it's very elongated and very awkward. I do like the Titan or the Elite FTS SSB a little bit better for this. Another thing with tricep movements, if you can involve anything that's also going to involve the shoulders a little bit. So I recently just got back into dips. Dips are pretty tough. You definitely want to make sure you can maintain a good shoulder position, that you're stable on the apparatus. But they build the shoulders, the chest, the triceps like no other exercise. And I've gotten pretty heavy with them with chains and plates, and it's really driven my pressing up. And you just got to be careful with moderating them, managing the volume, not doing any crazy setup where you have like a band and chains and then like plates hanging from you. Probably something I would do. We're going to get into some other movements. So really this category of it is going to be just low stress, like ease of access movements that you can do. Lateral delt raises, rear delt flies, dumbbell pressing. Like really what you need to do to get a stronger press is just accumulate a lot of quality volume with these exercises and keep them in your program consistently. If you're like 1 week on and they're like, don't have time, got to get out, like I just did my main movement and leave, like that's not going to work. You either need to add that in on a different day or you need to allot your time better so that you have time to get those accessories in, because it may not feel like it for 1 week, but over the course of 6, 8, 12 weeks, that is really the investment that you need to put in to continue to sustain progress and come out in the end with a successful prep, meet, or just like a strength hypertrophy block where you want to see results that are really optimal and you're proud of what you've accomplished. We're going to get into some dumbbell pressing. I'm going to grab the new bells out and do a set or two. So there's a set of dumbbell pressing. Doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't even have to be really heavy. We only have 80s in here, but I will be able to, like, I've done some sets with 120s, 100s at Power Build, and that's been nice to have some heavier dumbbells. The next category we're going to get into is looking at explosiveness, power with your pressing, your push jerk, developing that power and skill with the movement. So however you really want to do this, if you watch anything with Martins Licis, it's very technical, experienced weightlifting background. I'm definitely not there. I tried like some different things and I wasn't passionate about it. I just wanted to squat, bench, and deadlift, baby, and then got more into the overhead press. If that's something like that you feel you want to venture into, it can have a dramatic effect on your pressing ability overhead. Or if it's just thrusters, just being able to dip under that weight and pop it up in one motion. I've done a lot of like just semi-jerk style movements, behind the neck push jerks I really like. And then I've just really been working on my clean of late, and I'm doing like some contrast with push press off the blocks and then a clean pull, low pull. And I feel like that's been really helpful to get me more comfortable with the weight. I think a missing aspect of a lot of people's programming is the explosive jump throw training, and then the power, developing that power, and then developing the power to sustain you over long periods of time. So you might have like a keg clean and press for max reps, wall clean and press for max reps. You need to be able to like use some force and power, get that implement over your head, but then you need to be able to sustain it over a 60-second period or maybe even longer. So I, coming off a deload, just pop back in on some thrusters off the blocks, and I actually really like it. I know Nick Canby is a big fan of that type of movement. I know other guys aren't, but teach their own, and like I'm giving it a try. I would really like to be able to improve my ability with that kind of movement. So we're gonna do one more set of the dumbbells because I feel like it. The next category of movements we're going to talk about is overhead stability. So overhead stability, often with walking or picks off a rack with an eccentric component, are great. So I like yoke waiter's walk because you get the swing of the yoke. I also like to do like a thruster press off of that to start. This is something that I think is really great because, especially with this Rogue yoke that I've been using, it's, overbuilt. It's Rogue, it's bulky, it's very fixed with a thick cross member. So it can get unstable really quickly, and you have to make sure you're focused and locked in and have a good position overhead. And then be able to do the walks and just walk farther, walk repeatedly, like putting it down, repressing it, and going back. I think it's phenomenal for the shoulders. You can do this with circus dumbbell as well. I think it's huge to build a big dumbbell press. Even just a normal barbell, axle, log, whatever you want to do. I would definitely add this into your program if you aren't doing them already. Another aspect of stability is implementing perturbations to your stability. So you involve a band of some sort. You can do this around kettlebell, do overhead kettlebell carries attached to a band. You can attach bands to a barbell, do pressing overhead. You can use the bamboo bar, do pressing overhead like that. You can do like uneven loads on some different bars. I've done that with a football bar, and also uneven grips with perturbations to stability with the kettlebells. Attach the bands on the bar. A waiter's walk, I used to think it was because like a waiter, like you're wading through a river and you have to hold your clothes over your head, but it's actually like a waiter, like holding a tray above their shoulder. And I used to be a waiter, so it's funny. Oh boy. Okay, we're going to move on to the last point, and that is progressive overload. So that can just be lifting heavier weight. You just continue to add load each session. You can continue to push the volume, but you can also do movements where you can make the weight much heavier than you would be using at this stage of your training or at all. So negatives like reverse band stuff, the arm support stuff that I've been doing off the rack is a great one. Even using accommodating resistance and doing a max effort movement like that so that it's heavier at the top is a great choice, and it's probably going to add some instability as well as like push your ability to overload your strength and drive through that movement and get stronger. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this style of video. Keep lifting those heavy weights and hold strong.